Starlord.
Who?
Well, Starlord, man. Legendary outlaw.
Welcome to I Am Your Target Demographic. Today we are preparing for the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We're going to be covering the events of Guardians 1 and 2, and then all of the events that they've segued into, so things like Avengers. Now, there's a lot to cover here, but luckily I'm not alone. I'm getting an assist today from Jay over at Fancy Geeks.
Hi, I'm Jay from the YouTube channel Fancy Geeks. Before we dive into the recap of what has already happened to our Guardians, I want to clearly state that we're not mind readers. We're just doing our best to summarize plot points that likely will be important in Volume 3. Back to you, Adam.
So let's start by outlining our heroes. We follow primarily the story of Peter Quill, a young boy whose mother dies of cancer. As he runs from the hospital in grief, a light from the sky appears and Quill is immediately picked up by a spaceship full of space pirates called the Ravagers. Quill is raised to then be a thief. So we cut to modern day, where he's on a quest for an Infinity Stone, a powerful gem beyond what Quill could even imagine. Quill isn't the only thief, however. Two characters crash into Quill's journey here. One, a talking raccoon named Rocket, though Rocket has no idea what a raccoon is. He was created, experimented on by a figure that will likely play a big role in Volume 3, called the High Evolutionary. Rocket is a strategist and a tinkerer, able to build weapons and bombs and all sorts of gadgets, and relishes using them. His partner is the tree-like creature named Groot, from a species that can only speak using 3 words. I am Groot.
I'm Groot.
Yeah, you said that.
Rocket has learned to understand this language, and eventually the other Guardians begin to understand as well. These two hope to sell or trade the stone for something valuable. Someone else is looking for this stone as well. So let's meet the galactic threat known as Thanos, who will become a pivotal enemy for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thanos seeks not only this stone, but all 6, in order to wield enough power to wipe out half of all life in the galaxy. He doesn't do this work alone. He's aided by 2 of his adopted daughters, meaning he destroyed their planets and civilizations but kept them as prizes to raise as his own. Gamora, called the deadliest woman in the galaxy, is sent to retrieve this stone from Peter Quill. But when Rocket and Groot interfere, all 4 of them are captured by an equivalent to an outer space police force called the Nova Corps and put into a maximum security prison, where they encounter who will eventually become the 5th member of their ragtag group, a brawler named Drax the Destroyer, whose family was slaughtered by Thanos and his minions. Together they escape the prison and must find a place to keep this stone safe. There's someone out there who collects rare artifacts, such as this, called the Collector. He's got weapons, relics, and even one-of-a-kind creatures on display, such as a dog wearing an astronaut uniform, which we'll discuss more in a bit. Needless to say, things don't go well here, and the Collector's Museum is destroyed, and Thanos sends one of his strongest generals to the planet, an extremist military leader named Ronan. Now, Ronan is supposed to get this gem for Thanos, but he's too power-hungry himself and he keeps it, then attempting to use this new power and all of his military might to destroy the home planet of this police force, the Nova Corps. The Guardians, now united against this threat of extinction, manage to get the stone from Ronan, and together they share the weight of its power and use it to defeat him. The Nova Corps agrees to safeguard this stone, which comes to be known as the Power Stone.
Hey, it's me, Jay, and my job today is to break down the significance of our Guardians post-credit scenes, and we've got some doozies. At the end of Guardians, we see the aftermath of the Collector's Museum, and we see yet again this dog. If you're not a comics fan, you likely don't recognize this dog as Cosmo, a dog sent to space by the Russians during the space race, who crossed through some cosmic radiation, and it gave him some wild abilities, including the ability to speak to others telepathically. We know Cosmo is showing up in Volume 3, so in this post-credit scene, we see him again, followed by a quick cameo from Howard the Duck, who may also appear again. We'll see soon. Back to you, Adam.
Now, at the climax of this first Guardians movie, one of our Guardians actually dies. Groot protects his friends as their ship crashes to the surface and ultimately gives his life. What's left is a tiny twig, which eventually grows into a character lovingly called Baby Groot. director of the movie James Gunn confirmed that this isn't the same Groot, and is essentially Groot's son. Gamora doesn't return to Thanos, and chooses her new family, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Gamora was not the only daughter of Thanos, so we're also introduced to a character called Nebula, who has been tortured and experimented on by Thanos, much more so than Gamora. Nebula is a dark and tormented character who will do nearly anything to win her father's affection, and she sees Gamora as the favorite daughter who could do no wrong. While they begin as enemies and rivals, they eventually form a bond as sisters. We're now in the events of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which really opens up our world and has some major implications to what's going to happen in Volume 3. The Guardians here are taking on jobs like mercenaries, and they accidentally make enemies with a golden-skinned race called the Sovereign.
Hey, did you say Sovereign? The biggest impact here is the post-credit scene involving the leader of the Sovereign with a large metal cocoon-like structure which houses a being that she names Adam and vows that he will destroy the Guardians. In Volume 3, we're going to meet this character called Adam Warlock. He has strong ties to a lot of Marvel's biggest cosmic storylines. This has big potential.
A big portion of Guardians Volume 2 revolves around Quill meeting his father named Ego, who turns out to be what's called a Celestial, meaning that Quill is part Celestial as well. Long story short, it's revealed that Ego actually gave Quill's mother cancer and is responsible for her early death. The two battle, and Quill ultimately defeats his father and gives up his celestial abilities to do so. They do take on a former colleague of Ego's, a woman named Mantis, who has the ability to control emotions and do some quasi-mind control, and she joins the Guardians for their future adventures. We also spend a lot of time in this film with the Ravagers, with the leader of the Ravagers named Yondu giving his life to help defeat Ego and save the Guardians.
Me again. While poor Yondu gave his life, we did get to meet some new Guardians and lots of other Ravagers. Many of these characters are Easter eggs for some of the founding original Guardians from the comics. There's a post-credit scene that may play out in the future somehow, revolving around a character codenamed Starhawk, played by Sylvester Stallone. He's joined by a whole crew of odd characters here that would be perfect for a spin-off, a Disney Plus show, or even appearances in future movies. Maybe in Volume 3, we'll see some of them make a return. And speaking of post-credit goodness, we also see the Ravager named Kraglin take on Yondu's trademark fin that allowed him to use a magic arrow to do some major damage. Kraglin is seen here attempting to learn how it works.
Throughout the events of both Guardians 1 and 2, we see a slow building of trust and eventually romance between Peter Quill and Gamora. Nebula, while now on decent terms with her sister, opts to leave and seek out Thanos for revenge. Okay, now our world is going to expand a lot as we now venture into what happens in the Avengers films. So, Thanos. Off-screen, Thanos decimates the Nova Corps and retrieves the Power Stone that was featured in Guardians Volume 1. He uses this stone to destroy a ship of Asgardian warriors, and he's able to claim the Space Stone as well. Remember the Collector? Well, he has the Reality Stone, so some of the Guardians race to retrieve it just a tad too late, as Thanos uses his new powers to evade them and kidnap his adopted daughter Gamora. We see them then arrive on a planet called Vormir, where Thanos must make an immense sacrifice in order to acquire the Soul Stone. He throws his daughter down and kills Gamora, claiming the stone. At the same time, we see the Asgardian Lord of Thunder, Thor, bond with the Guardians, traveling with Rocket and Groot to build himself a new weapon, which he uses to teleport them to Earth to combat the wave of Thanos' foot soldiers. At this point, you'll notice that Groot has progressed to a teenager state. There's 2 stones left now for Thanos. He travels to acquire the Time Stone, held by the sorcerer called Doctor Strange, who has laid a trap for Thanos alongside the other Guardians. They do their best to stop Thanos and remove the gauntlet, but Peter Quill eventually uncovers that Thanos killed Gamora, and in a fit of rage, Quill ruins the trap and Thanos is able to fight back. Doctor Strange is essentially forced to turn over the stone, so that Thanos doesn't murder the hero known as Iron Man, who Doctor Strange knows is vital to defeating him. Thanos then zips away to the battle on Earth, swatting away the Avengers, and claiming the last stone, the Mind Stone, from the forehead of the hero known as Vision. With all 6, he snaps his fingers and does what he intended. He obliterates half of all life. The Guardians were not immune to being destroyed by Thanos. Most of them turned to dust.
Avengers Affinity War ended with half of the heroes being straight up killed, along with half of the actual universe. It was traumatic.
Rocket and Nebula were the only 2 who survived, with Nebula stranded in outer space with Iron Man, and Rocket stranded on Earth alongside the other Avengers. They're able to track down Thanos, but they discover that he's destroyed the stones, and there doesn't seem to be any way to undo what he's done. 5 years go by. Eventually, a plan starts to unfold involving time travel, that the Avengers might go back in time to when the stones did exist and bring them to modern day and undo the snap. They managed to succeed at this, surprisingly, but not without alerting a 2014 version of Thanos. This Thanos discovers that he wins in the future. In the 2014, Gamora and Nebula travel with him to Earth through the same time travel portal to claim the stones yet again. A huge fight ensues. Modern-day Nebula knocks out her evil older self, and Gamora ends up meeting Peter Quill, though she has absolutely no recollection of knowing him, nonetheless being in love with him. Our hero, Iron Man, uses the stones to destroy Thanos and his forces, giving his life in the process. Captain America then takes the stones back to their proper time and place, setting everything back the way it was supposed to be. So at the end of this saga, the Guardians are together, including Nebula and Kraglin, the former Ravager. But the 2014 version of Gamora is missing, likely alive somewhere in the cosmos, but without any of the knowledge she held before. Thor, having bonded with them, travels with them, and we see in Thor: Love and Thunder that they're adventuring together until he leaves them for other pressing business. We've got a few pieces of the puzzle that will likely fit into place when Guardians Volume 3 arrives. Rocket will learn about his origins at the hand of the High Evolutionary. The golden-skinned Adam Warlock may have a bone to pick with our heroes. The speaking dog Cosmo will have plenty to say. And hopefully we see some other Guardians from past eras make a return to the big screen.
Hopefully this was everything you needed to be refreshed and up to date on what our heroes have been doing. Make sure to check out the description below and check out my channel at youtube.com/fancygeeks, where I do deeper dives into the comic origins of each of these heroes.
So hopefully this helped prepare you for Guardians Volume 3. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and make sure you also head over to Jay at Fancy Geeks. And thank you, Jay, for everything you did to help out with this video. I appreciate it. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.
Ooh, child, things will get brighter. Listen to these words. Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier.